Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. It's Tuesday night. That means it's our Tuesday night live show. Thanks for joining us. We know you all have lots of other things that you could be doing, so the fact that you took the time to join us does not go unappreciated. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, little introduction here for those of anyone who does not know me. My name is Scott Reich. I'm a practicing criminal defense attorney. Been doing this for 26 years, so I have a pretty good idea of what's taking place in a criminal trial, not only here in the state in which I reside, but just about everywhere else, because, you know, a trial is a trial. Maybe you stand up somewhere, maybe you sit down in other places, but at the end of the day, it's a trial. The government always has the burden of proof, of proving their case beyond a reasonable doubt. And so I do know a little bit about it. We've had a lot of success over the years. Started this channel really over a lot of frustration that took place, particularly during the Watts case, the Chris Watts case, where everyone in the news media, for lack of a better term, was simply just getting it wrong. So we started this channel, and next thing you know, it's been, I think we're right about 3 years, 188,000 subscribers. Excited about that. Thank each and every one of you for doing that. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe, hit that like button as well. Tell a friend, let them know. Like to get to 1 million. You know what happens when I get to 1 million? That's right. We do this 8 hours a day. That's right. 8 hours a day, not just a couple nights a week and putting up videos once a day. We'll have our own TV network. How about that? So let's get us to 1 million. Tell a friend. All right. Before we get started, let's take a little chat to support one of our sponsors here. Now, if you go to CrimeTalkPrep.com, you're going to get a discount of $50 off your 4-week emergency food supply, as well as free shipping. All right. And just take a look at this. This is right off the news as we speak. Texas energy company CenterPoint Energy said on Tuesday that about 400,000 homes and businesses in the Houston area service territory are without power as a result of the tropical storm. Well, go back a couple of weeks ago, it was Hurricane Ida that took out, and there's people that still don't have power from that. What are you going to do? Well, sure, you can probably drive north, get yourself a meal, but what if you have to stay at the house? What if you need to protect the house, right? You're going to need to take care of yourself. Go to CrimeTalkPrep.com, get your emergency food supply. That's what it's there for. Hopefully, you never need it, but if you do, it's going to be there. So you'll be happy that you did. All right. Excuse me. All right, let's get Jason. Scott, the crazy end of days prepper. Hardly. I am sure that I am absolutely positive that this big blue ball that we call Earth will be around long after I depart. I'm not worried about anything like that. And it's just doing the responsible thing. But I'm telling you, I've had some people that were like, oh my gosh, how could you do that? You're like, it's some sort of political statement or something. Yeah, no. I mean, they're a sponsor. They sell a lot of that food. We see the numbers. They sell a lot of that food. And it's amazing. I mean, think about it. When you go on a car trip, what do? You prepare for an emergency, right? You have stuff for a flat tire, a jack, a phone. I go flying. I prepare for an emergency. Have a little emergency go bag in the airplane. It's just common sense. Why would you not do that for anything in life? You know, I remember when COVID hit, everybody, completely ransacked the grocery stores. You couldn't even get toilet paper, for God's sakes. What do you think's going to happen? Something really bad happens. You think all those essential personnel are just going to keep driving on through? Well, I don't know. You have to take care of yourself. That's what it's all about. It's nothing political. It's nothing like that. It's just being an adult, making common sense. All right, so let's get started. This is your show, okay? And we're going to talk about what you want to talk about. Over there in the comments section of our page, now there are lots of comments that go flying by, and I will try to answer as many questions as I can. And sometimes we don't ask for them, but I do note that if you do the super chat, it does get highlighted and it highlights it to me. And so therefore you're bound to get your question answered. The only other alternative to make sure that you get your question answered would be to go to their Patreon show and become a Patreon member so that you can participate in doing that. So yeah, let's do that. All right. I mean, it's still a lot of stuff in the news. I'm telling you, first, the Murdaugh case down there in South Carolina. What the heck is going on? Is he the suspect in the death of his wife, Maggie, and son, Paul? Is Alec Murdaugh, is he a suspect? Is he not? I know Sled saying, be patient, but it looks like he, probably took off with quite a bit of money. Are we sure that he's actually in rehab? Do we know that for sure? Or maybe he's running off. Maybe he is running off to, collect his money somehow. And I think a Patreon member brought this in last week. You're like, oh my gosh, he stole the money. Well, it must be because he's living beyond his means and what have you. And then I thought a Patreon member said, well, sounds pretty consistent with somebody that's maybe got a gambling problem. Yes, it does, doesn't it? We'll see. Maybe that's one of the addiction issues. I mean, I know we heard opioid, but, it can be an issue as well. So let's go through and, we can talk about the Murdaugh case. We got the Coleman case where, he went and killed his 2 children. And obviously we have the Barry Morphew matter that's coming up Friday, right? Friday, the judge is supposed to announce his decision as it relates to his findings of probable cause. And I have mentioned this before. I have done many a preliminary hearing in my lifetime on murder cases. Not once did we have to wait weeks for a judge to issue their findings. It's rather simple. Let me tell you an example of some of the judges ruling on preliminary hearing. And I'm not really being facetious here. Some judges say, all right, based upon the evidence that's been presented, I find that there's probable cause. The matter's bound over the district court. Let's get a date. Other judges will go through and say, all right, the evidence was presented by, officer or detective so-and-so on this date, and they lay out the essential elements for the preliminary hearing. All right? Excuse me, I don't know why I'm coughing. I got an eye itch. What the heck is going on? And they lay out the facts, and they'll, to make the client or the defendant feel better, say, hey, it's a very low standard of proof, but I've got to bind it over. And everybody knew in the courtroom was going to get bound over, except maybe the defendant who was hoping it wasn't going to get bound over. And then that happens. So I'm not really sure why the judge thought he needed, what's it been, 2 weeks now? Almost 2 weeks since the end of the preliminary hearing to do that. From what I can tell, and based upon conversations with people that were in the courtroom, that's right, Julie, she stated that the judge appeared to be rather focused and oftentimes I think shut people down politely if they were being distracting or something like that in the courtroom. So, who knows? But I'm surprised. Unless he is maybe, who knows? Maybe this judge is just going to surprise us and say, you know what? I get it. It's a tragedy, but I just don't see the evidence here to support probable cause. Now, that would be pretty unusual since it's my recollection that it was reported that this judge was the one that signed the affidavit for probable cause, and it was 125 pages long. So, maybe things weren't exactly the way they're written on the paper that gave rise to probable cause, if the judge was going to do that. Or the judge is going to say, well, you know what, it just doesn't really matter because the standard is so low, the case has troubles, but that's not my job to decide that. That's a job for the members of the community to decide at the trial, and therefore let the case go forward. But I don't find proof, evidence, presumption great. However, I think a judge could have made a reasonable finding that, well, most of Mr. Morphew's family no longer resides in Colorado. He has very limited family ties to Colorado, and set the bond relatively high. And so what does that mean? Well, if it's, the proof, evident, presumption, great portion of the hearing is to decide whether somebody's held without a bond. You can't hold somebody without a bond unless there's basically overwhelming evidence. I don't think there was. So I don't think the court's going to find proof, evident, presumption great. But hey, judges surprise me all the time with rulings that I think I have prevailed upon. So who knows what the judge is going to do in a case that I wasn't even there for. But I don't think the evidence supports that. But what's the one way the judge gets around making that finding and yet still keeping the defendant in custody? That's right, setting a bond high enough so that they can't bond out, that it might as well be a no bond hold. And obviously that depends on your financial means as to whether you get out, right? If you are completely indigent, broke, poor, no money whatsoever, and the court says it's $100. Well, that $100 might as well be $1 million because you don't have $100. Same thing if you just sold your house, where allegedly you and your wife maybe had an argument, something along those lines, but that's gone now, and you're probably giving a big chunk of that cash to your defense attorneys. Suddenly, that reasonable bond starting to look a little more out of sight. So we'll have to wait and see. So we've got that. And then, of course, you got the Letitia Stout case. What the hell is going on with this case, man? I don't get it. Everybody likes a nice judge, okay? But everybody respects the firm judge, okay? You can be firm, respectful to everybody in the courtroom, but everybody knows you don't mess with the judge, right? And that's the way it's supposed to be. They're the judge. And I've never, once again, going back to my experience, done lots of preliminary hearings, and I have lots of clients that would love to have not had to attend court because of, the fact that people were going to be looking at them. Back in the old courthouse here in Denver, they didn't have the magic door where somebody came out of, the holding area behind the hollow door or behind the hallway, the magic door, as we refer to it as. Go with the wizard. The wild door is going to open up. Back at the old Denver courthouse, I think they built a new one maybe 10 years ago. I can't believe it's that long, maybe less. But you used to have to walk your client down the center of the city and county Denver building. Now, it was cool. Don't get me wrong. When it's your guy and all the press is out there taking pictures and it's you and your client walking there, that was kind of cool. I'm not going to deny that. But it probably was somewhat of a security risk, although I think maybe somebody got in a fight occasionally or they were upset by court, but you didn't know because there were like 6 deputies walking your guys down the hallway. So I had a lot of clients that wish they didn't have to go to court, go to be at a preliminary hearing. But guess what? The judge is going to say, you're going to be there. It's a critical stage of the proceeding. They're presenting evidence regarding whether you stay in custody or not, whether they find probable cause, the case goes forward or not. You're going to be there. And just because you don't want to have a little embarrassment, you have a little anxiety, that isn't good enough to waive your appearance. So I'm a little surprised the court allowed that. Maybe the court got a little duped, so to speak. But the prosecutor in that case said, hey, when you waive your appearance as you did, or you absence yourself, it's equivalent to a failure to appear. And therefore, Letitia Stout waived her preliminary hearing. So it puts the judge in a tight spot. And I get it. The judge is in a situation where he has a high-profile case. He has a job to make sure that the prosecution and the defense both receive a fair trial, right? That's the job of the judge. Make sure that both sides receive a fair trial, due process is given throughout the process, and at the end of the day, impose sentence if that's what's necessary. So you have a judge trying to make sure that everybody gets a fair shake, but sometimes you just have to stop being the nice guy, put the old hammer down, so to speak, and let everybody know that you're in charge. You're not taking this crap anymore. And so what does the judge do? Did he just create an issue for appeal? Well, maybe, but I think the way he gets around it is simply saying she absenced herself intentionally, although I granted it, I probably shouldn't have, but it doesn't matter because I heard the evidence and I still find that there's probable cause and that there's proof evident presumption. Great. That's how I think it's remedied. So no harm, no foul. But who's running the show down there? Letitia Stout or, the court? I don't know. I think I'd have to, at this point, probably give a couple of points to old Letitia Stout. I mean, she's had a couple of delays. She's had her case continued for almost a year and a half now, right? I think in January we're coming up on 2 years. 2 years. And we've just got the preliminary hearing done. So I don't know. Sounds like tail wagging the dog a little bit to me, but we'll have to wait and see. All right. Now let me go back here. I saw a what do we call it again? The super chat. Jackie R. $20. Wow. Thank you very much. Very nice of you to do that. Checking convictions. Let's see here. I'm thinking how much a lot of people nowadays on little tech overload. Let's see here. I'm going through some of these questions, comments here. Okay, Tim F. Mr. B, seems that Alex was there only 14 minutes on that day. I guess his gun might have been used, but Eddie then bugged off. And then, so Chad was left to cut up the body. I love your comments on Mercedes Lane case from Indiana. An 11-month-old killed and parents and friend are charged. The father served for selling his 12-year-old daughter. Well, is it Ashpoo 0528? Well, that certainly doesn't sound good. Mercedes Lane, obviously, anytime a child is killed, I mean, that's just tough, like why don't you pick on somebody your own size? But the parents don't do that oftentimes. And then the father looks like has served time for selling his 12-year-old daughter. Obviously not going to win Parents of the Year award. I'm sorry I don't know enough about the Mercedes Lane case. We'll try to look it up, maybe have something on it in the next day or two. I don't know, but it doesn't sound good for the parents. I mean, who does that? I mean, I get it. People... some people don't want children. Maybe it didn't quite come at the convenient time, but hey, that's what it is. You can't just send them back, so to speak. And so when people, harm children, like they're here. You can't just get rid of them one day. So be nice to them, for God's sakes. They're little kids, man. And yes, young kids, but 11-year-olds, right? I mean, it's not like a little infant that's just yelling and screaming and colicky all the time. And certainly that's never, ever an excuse to harm a child. Never, ever. But an 11-year-old, you can like tell them, go to your room. Don't come out until it's dinner time. Something along those lines. I just don't get it. I don't get it. But, it's funny. In most jurisdictions, like here in Colorado, child abuse resulting in death, I think off the top of my head, it's an F3. So it's extraordinary risk. So I think it's like 4 to 16 years. They can charge like in a murder or something. But the child abuse resulting in death doesn't carry as much time as attempted murder, and murder, which, murder is obviously life without parole. Attempted murder is 48 years in prison, 16 to 48. So I always wonder that. Why did the state legislature say when they came up with the law here, why was it so, child abuse resulting in death carries less time? I mean, can you think of sometimes of things that are more, that are not more premeditated than these cases where you hear about the children are being abused over and over, and it just goes on and the pattern is repeated. They're locking kids in the rooms, they're starving them, things of that nature. And the child ultimately dies. Like, how is that not murder? How is that not after deliberation, right? And I've only done, not counting the case last year, I think one other case that had to do with malnourishment. And you're literally seeing somebody, a child, wither away, right? You're an adult. You are supposed to take care of those children. By God, even if they're not yours, right? You're going to look out for them and say, hey, something's not right. But yet we hear about it all the time where we have these cases where children are abused. So I'm sorry, Ashpoo0528. I don't know anything about the Mercedes Lane case there in Indiana. I'll take a look at it. But, any father that's going to sell their daughter, like, it may be their biological child, but he's not a good parent, right? Who would sell their child? I don't get that. Let's see. Did I follow the West Memphis 3? I remember reading about something about the West Memphis 3 case a while back, but I don't think we discussed it in great detail. Oh, yes. And then we have the Jonathan Newell case. He's the gentleman that took his own life when the FBI was about to arrest him for inappropriate child photographs on his computer. And, of course, he's a judge, right? I've said this before. Public servants, they have to do it better and cleaner than everybody. But yet, at the end of the day, they're still human. But it doesn't mean they're not to be held accountable if they do something wrong. Frankly, they should be held more accountable, more swiftly, with greater punishment than, frankly, the everyday citizen. Because you have to remember, like these judges, these prosecutors get in trouble, the politicians get in trouble, right? They're the ones creating the laws, telling you how to live your life, right? And I get it. We all make mistakes. We're all human. We're all hypocrites. It's just a matter of degree. But if you're going to tell somebody how to live, by God, while you're in office, you better make sure you are walking the absolute straight and narrow. And if you're not, you need to go away. Absolutely, positively believe that. They're public servants. They work for the people. And the bottom line is that somebody needs to call them out on it. And they need to go away. And, it's interesting how so many times that it just depends on which party somebody is in, whether they get treated the way, someone should be treated if they mess up, or whether they get a complete pass, which I think is wrong in and of itself again, right? When you have laws, those rules need to be enforced, and somebody needs to be doing it, calling balls and strikes. I get it. Sometimes it's in the court of public opinion, but I think most people, and if you really want to be intellectually honest, and I think everybody's guilty of this, you see somebody that's in public life and maybe you like them. They're on your side. They're the ones that, fighting the good fight. And okay, maybe they're flawed. Maybe they're flawed, right? But then you just can't, bring it to yourself to criticize them. Well, but he's flawed, but he's my flawed candidate. Well, it doesn't work that way. Think about it. Jurors, do they go in there and say, well, he seems like such a nice young man or woman. It looks like, he probably came from good parents. Sure, he messed up, but I'm just going to ignore everything. Well, jurors don't do that, right? Jurors are, I think, very intellectually honest. They look at things for what they are. They apply the law and the facts and let the chips fall where they may. That's what juries do. And that's why I think lawyers sometimes, we get a bad rap because you're like, hey, couldn't it just be like in court? Listen, you talk, then I talk, then you talk, point, counterpoint, right? Back and forth, back and forth. That's what you do in court. Respectful. But then you have people, like I said, it just drives me absolutely bonkers. You see these pundits on TV where, no matter what their guy, their woman did wrong, it's not a big deal. And compared to what all the other people did, this is not a big deal at all. Isn't that something when you develop intelligence is you're supposed to be able to call out both sides, everybody, and say, this is the elephant in the room, right? That's why I love my job. I get to call out the elephant in the room. I get to talk about the elephant in the room that nobody else wants to talk about. Let's talk about it, right? Heck, I've been in meetings where nobody wanted to say anything. I'll be like, all right, fine. I'm going to raise the, I'm going to ask the question. This is what everybody wants to know anyway, but nobody wants to answer it. And I just don't get it. And I'm not saying you have to be mean to people, but let's just be honest. And why can't there be just more intellectual honesty? I don't know. Maybe I'm just feeling a little frustrated. I just, some of the stuff that's gone on this week, and it's only Tuesday. Only Tuesday. Can you believe that? Tuesday. And it's only Tuesday. And I hate to say, oh my God, what else can go wrong, right? I used to have, when I was in the Marines, and I was in this reserve unit, we would have to go out to 29 Palms, and we would do a CAX, which is a big armed exercise. And I won't mention the captain's name at the time with us because I was a young enlisted guy. And, like every day, it was always an adventure. And I remember one day he climbed out of his sleeping bag, just, he's sitting there. It's still dark, the sun's coming up there in the California desert. They're in 29 Palms. And it's just, starting to get a little bit of sunlight, but still dawn. But everybody's starting to wake up because, stuff's going to start happening soon. And he opens up his sleeping bag. It was a mummy bag, even though it was still in the desert, still took the mummy bag out there. And he literally pulled his hands down, opened a little air, and kind of looked left, and he looked right, and he said, God, what can go wrong today? And that's kind of been like my week. Like, what else could happen? But I don't even want to ask that question because, the stuff, I don't even want to know. But, it's just been a crazy week this week. One of our attorneys was hit in a car accident today. We've had people in and out that have, COVID round 2. It just, the hits just keep on coming. True helper. I do. And they should be held accountable, right? I mean, I guess that's my thing. These politicians act like they have this job and it's theirs forever. No, they're there because their constituents let them keep the job. But if it were up to me, I would term limit every single one of them. I'd put a body cam on every public servant down to the clerk at the DMV. So if there's ever any issue about how you were treated or what took place, we could find out, and we could see if people are actually working there too. That would be good. But what can you do? Ben, when it rains, it pours. It sure seems like that someday, but what do you do? Okay. No court Thursday for Durst because Yom Kippur. I hope the jurors are sick of it and ready to be done. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I thought the Durst trial was over. I mean, wasn't he testifying like 3 weeks ago? Was he still on the stand? I mean, only in California could a homicide case of this nature, which in any other jurisdiction would maybe take 3 weeks at the most. Only in California can they let this thing drag out. And I understand it was delayed because of COVID. I think they actually started it and then they stopped it. But for the love of God, like, Mr. Prosecutor, the man is on tape basically confessing, saying, oh my God, what have I done? Like, come on. That's your case. Ladies and gentlemen, he confessed. Like, he confessed when he thought no one was listening, when he was going to the restroom, and he was having that, oh my God, what have I mean, if the prosecutor can't prove it on based upon that, then I do not know what. But all this, the longer it goes, the more likely they're going to raise reasonable doubt. Let's see here. This moments in trading. Scott, you should cover the true crime channel Critical K being sued for $10 million in slander. Wow. I hadn't heard about that. But I guess, when, what is it? I've had so many people like, oh, Scott, if you were just more out there, so to speak, then, you'd have even more subscribers. Well, guess what? I don't want to get sued. Let's see here. CK time as she relentlessly goes after them and bullies them, harasses them, even including the reign of terror. Please have her. Why should be a man? Critical K being removed from social media platforms. Targets crime, murder victims and their families and friends. Jeez, blames the victims. We don't need support. I mean, okay, I don't know anything about her page, but from if that's true, I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but let's see what. Experienced true crime and parenting and marriage. Fascination with true crime, writing and speaking. Okay, well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I wonder what she was getting. I wonder what she actually said. But, when you sue somebody, I mean, obviously you have, what's the word I'm looking for? There's you have a certain amount of protection. However, if they're not public figures, and I'm not sure being the victim of a crime or of a homicide, if that rises you to the level of public figure whereby anything can be said about you, kind of like, we can say about politicians and things like that. And there's been a bit of a thing going on in the court system, basically saying they need to adopt a new standard as it relates to defamation type of suits. But, it's interesting. I don't know. Obviously, I'm a big free speech guy, but you still have to be responsible enough to be able to know when you're crossing the line, right? And you better have something to back it up, in my opinion. That's just the way I try to do things as an attorney. Sure, I can make an argument, but it has to be still appropriate. I have to argue the reasonable facts, argue the reasonable inferences drawn from the evidence or the lack thereof, right? So you can argue, they failed to prove their case. They didn't bring you A, B, C, D, and E. And what they brought you was, F, G, and Z, nothing in between. Their case sucks. Let's, find them not guilty, right? But you can't just say stuff that you can't back up. And you can't then say, well, oh, woe is me, when things go bad and you get sued. It's like a lot of things in life. You got to be stuck with the consequences of your actions. So I don't know what people think they're doing. I mean, people think they can get on the internet and say anything they want. Some of the things that I have seen in our comment section or emails that people have sent to us over time, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, does your mom know you talk with that mouth? I just cannot believe it. And some of it's just mean and nasty stuff. It's like, man, we've never met. Like, at least let me, meet you, and then I can decide if I'm going to, treat you with that much disrespect. It's just crazy. Thank you for the long day. Don't change the permit. Appreciate the videos. Cool. Let's see here. I hate it when the authorities hold back info like that. Can't wait to see where this is headed. Is it Lamann? Did I pronounce Lamann? I agree. I get it. There's a case going on. There's a current case going on. So at a certain point, you can't release a ton of information. But I would think that the police, if they're trying to solve a crime where they apparently have no leads, and I'm jumping here, we can talk about whether it's the Barry Morphew case or the Alex Murdaugh case, or regarding the death of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh. But they have to have some information, they being the police, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. Like, why don't they provide a little bit? Say, hey, you know what? We're looking for somebody. We're looking for this person driving this car who's in this area. I know they probably have a pretty good idea of all the cell phones in that area, and they've probably investigated, looked at, and talked to all of those individuals. Just give an update. You know what? We're 2 months into it, nearly 2 months, almost 3 months now, right? June, July, August, here we are in September. Since Paul and Maggie Murdaugh, no suspects, no information other than what's previously been given after a couple of days. Oh, by the way, the dad, the grieving spouse, Alex Murdaugh, may have been embezzling money. Okay, well, that certainly provides a lot of information. You think he'd maybe want to be cooperating with the police, saying maybe I owe people money. Maybe I owe some really bad people money. And maybe they're out there trying to do harm to me. Maybe that was meant for me, but they just got Paul and Maggie that day. Right? Let us know that type of stuff. Maybe it didn't happen that way. Maybe they think we have a person of interest, and we are just waiting for the crime lab results to come back, and then we're going to get our person that we're going after, right? But I think when they go to these black, dark out windows, I don't think that helps anybody. I think it, frankly, it's like anything in the government, right? Just tell us the damn truth. If they've got no leads, then just tell us they've got no leads. We need the help of the public. But now it seems like they just think that they can lie to us or just ignore it and shoo along. You don't need to know this. It's beyond your pay grade. You just wouldn't understand it, all you little peons out there. Leave it to the important government officials. We're going to handle this. And, in today's world, we've seen it before where everyday people have helped solve crimes because guess what? They have the time and the resources to go do the investigation that oftentimes the police neither have the time nor maybe know the information that they need to go check out. Sensory deprivation. Regarding Murdaugh, change Paul's name to Jamal and calculate how long he would be sitting in prison after Mallory was killed. Well, sensory deprivation, I cannot necessarily disagree with you, right? Let's face it, there have been a lot of racism that has taken place over the years in the criminal justice system. And I'm certainly not going to say that it's all gone. I'm not going to say that at all because it's not true. I've had clients that I think have been pulled over, arrested, searched, harassed because of their race. And I've had a lot of clients that have cried foul, saying it was because of their race when it turned out it wasn't. So each case has to be judged, case by case. But yes, is there racism in our system? Yes, it is. I remember once I was doing jury selection, and it was a very serious case. Client was looking to spend in the 10 years to life in prison. Serious case. And we were doing jury selection, and my client was Hispanic. Nice guy, born in the United States, but he was a Hispanic guy. And a juror, they go through the introductory stuff for jurors. Is there any reason you can't be fair and impartial? Blah, blah, blah. And this old white guy stands up and says, yeah, I can't be fair to him because when I walked in here, I figured since he was Hispanic, he was accused of two things, either what he's being accused of or drugs. And, the first reaction is, well, obviously get the guy the hell out of here because he's obviously a racist. And then it pisses you off because you want to think, well, God, I hope this guy never needs a jury one day and, going to get a fair trial because somebody thinks he's some, old racist white dude, right? So I remember, we're called up to the bench and like, oh, should we get rid of the guy? And he was like, oh, it's obvious he's going to be challenged for cause. And I'm like, Judge, listen, there's no way this person's going to sit on my client's jury panel, but he appears to be rather low down on the list. Unlikely that he'll actually make it to the jury box. So, Your Honor, I'm requesting that we let him sit in the courtroom and watch the process for a little longer. And the judge agreed. Because that upsets me. I don't know if the guy was just trying to get out of jury duty or maybe he was truly a racist. But the reality of it is like, I guess, hey, thanks for telling me you can't be fair and impartial. But maybe the guy should have to wear, I'm a racist, around his neck. And there certainly are police officers. There are judges that I've seen it where I could tell you, I couldn't prove it. But it just seemed like, if you were Muffy and Buffy from Cherry Hills, you were going to get a much lenient sentence than Jamal from the hood for the exact same offense.
We got a breaking.
Uh-oh, what's going on?
Someone's been arrested.
For what?
It's in the Murdaugh shooting, but it doesn't say who was arrested.
Ooh, breaking news.
Talking about it in the chat, too.
Oh, breaking news in the Paul Murdaugh situation.
I just sent you the note.
To my email?
Yep.
Okay. Let's take a look. Breaking news here. Let's take a look. Hit the click. Wow. Maybe my little speech got to the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. All right. This is coming from WCBD in Hampton County, South Carolina. Law enforcement's sources confirmed Tuesday that an arrest has been made in connection with the September 4th shooting of Alex Murdaugh. Murdaugh was allegedly shot in the head while changing an entire rural road in Hampton County. Of course, obviously stuff that we all know who've been watching this, that the shooting came just after he had resigned from his law firm that his grandfather has started. So, wow, maybe that'll break as things go on, and we'll obviously continue to talk about that. So, yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, so that's half the mystery, right? That's only as it relates to the shooting of Alex Murdaugh. Doesn't have anything to do, at least they're not saying, as it relates to Paul and Maggie as well. So, I'm probably going to mispronounce this. Ghey. Is that gay? R. Scott, it is the best. Scott is the best. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Keeping that way professional, smart, honest, straightforward. That's why this channel is different. Some people can't handle that. Yeah, we tried it. I mean, then we have Doreen. I started watching you when you started this, referring to the channel. Chris Watts was the first case I followed on YouTube. This is the best channel on YouTube. Sending love from Maine. Well, thank you, Doreen. That's very nice. And they're talking about it here. We'll see who is actually arrested. I mean, they can't keep that from a secret anymore. Now, can they? Interesting. That's rather interesting. A lot of people saying Buster did it, ? I don't think so. I don't think Buster had anything to do with it. You know, maybe there was really somebody there, but it was just, the whole thing just sounded weird with the Alex Murdaugh thing, right? His wife and son, and apparently his wife wanted an audit of the accounting of their finances. The son was going to put them in great financial strain as a result of his drunken escapades out in the river in Beaufort County there, down by Parris Island, South Carolina. They wind up dead. Then we find out dad, is allegedly stealing money, and then has an opioid addiction issue. And I wouldn't wish that on anybody, okay? But it's certainly going to use up those resources, certainly going to make you lie, cheat, and steal to get as much money as you can. And, it's not like you're running down to your little heroin dealer on the street corner. You got to get the pills, right? How do you get the pills? Well, you got to know somebody. I wonder if do you piss off, a street dealer? I mean, who knows? I mean, this is something made out of, it's a made for TV special, and it's unfolding. And, that's the other thing I always think is funny. Before I went to law school, I was always fascinated, with stories about cases like, wow, how did they come up with all this stuff on Law and Order? This is so interesting. These writers are so creative. And then you realize they're not being creative at all. They're just changing the names to protect whether it's innocent or the guilty. But this is real life stuff that's taken place, and then they just put it on TV. Because that's what you think. Like, oh my gosh, they're so creative. They're not creative. Like, I mean, when I go to, a party, so, well, I can't really talk about a case. Well, I saw you handle this case. Yeah, that's true. And you hear, talking generalities about, something. And it's, people just think it's so interesting. And I just look at it as like, oh my God, these are all dumb criminal contestants for the day, right? But that's what it's. So I don't know. It's everyday life. This stuff takes place. And like the Murdaugh cases of the world, we get those because people say, ooh, that's interesting. We've got, wealthy people in power and control of this little, part of southern South Carolina. And then all their world comes tumbling down. Goes back to my little saying. There are two types of people in the world. Those that are humble and those that are about to be. And guess what? That saying has never been wrong. Just look at how many famous people who get a little too big for their britches get brought down to reality. Be humble, right? Because you lose, you get accused of something, you lose somebody, you can get humbled rather quickly. You think old Alex Murdaugh's going to find out real shortly who his friends are and who his friends are not? I bet he does. A lot of people probably won't touch this guy with a 10-foot pole, right? But then there's going to be other friends and say, hey, Alex, man, I'm so sorry about what's going on. I didn't know about the money issues. I didn't know about the opioid. Why didn't you ask me? Well, I was embarrassed. I didn't know. You're going to find out what his friends are. Friends are going to say, if you did it, I'm not going to condone it, but I've known you for a long time. Nobody wants to be judged by their worst moment in life. And at that point, you find out who your friends are. People don't believe me. Like I said, I've been doing this for 26 years now, and somebody comes in and they're freaked out about their name, their reputation, their livelihood, their family. I said, one thing is for certain, you are going to find out who your friends are and who they are not when one gets charged. And I think that's probably going to be true for old Alex as well. All right, let's see here. Are finally being cut. Well, let's see here. I mean, we're going to give everyone the presumption of innocence, okay? Because that's the responsible thing to do so we don't get sued. That's right. Because Scott doesn't like being sued. Is Scott intoxicated? Why would you say that, Chrissy? No, I don't drink. It's been a long day. It's been a long couple of days. But no, I am not intoxicated. So sorry to disappoint you. I'm grateful for your help. I'd like Scott to see it ASAP. Happy to send an email address and you have it, pass it confidentially. Not related to these cases. Sorry to sound obtuse. Well, if you have a hot tip, send it to CrimeTalk, right?
Yes, CrimeTalk.
CrimeTalk at CrimeTalk, one word, at, little at symbol, at Reich, R-E-I-S-C-H, lawfirm.com. And I think that'll go directly to Julie, who will give it directly to me, or directly to Frank, and it'll go directly to me. And we'll love to talk about it. But no, not intoxicated. My eyes, I'm looking here in the little screen, like, yeah, maybe I'd look a little tired. But no, I don't drink. Oh, Gabby Pietto, missing after going cross-country tip. That's another story that seems to be developing. The boyfriend didn't report her missing, did he now? The boyfriend's allegedly lawyered up, hasn't he? Interesting. Now, certainly, you want all crimes to be reported and the bad guy convicted. And that's normally what happens when people, the truth comes out. But it sounds like this guy has maybe been watching or knows the famous words. Do we have that queued up, Frank? Could you play that?
No, I don't have it here.
Oh, he doesn't have it here. Okay. But he lawyered up. Lawyer, right? That's what you say. Now, I'm certainly, obviously, if Gabby Pietto is, no longer with us or something bad, let's hope that's not the case. We want that to be taken care of, resolved, and the bad guy. But if this boyfriend, and I'm not saying he had anything to do with it because we don't know. We give everyone the presumption of innocence unless and until they're convicted or they plead guilty in a court of law. That's right. But yeah, he certainly is doing the the right thing. Scott is having a bad week. He needs a therapist. I'm not sure I need that, but there's a couple of people that, if I could have, 5 minutes alone with and, maybe a big bat or a firearm, I'd probably, I could do that. No, I'm just kidding. I don't need a therapist. Although I will say that, I've had a lot of clients go to therapy over the years, and it helps them. It really does help somebody to talk to. So if you think you need to go to therapy, you should probably go to a therapist, right? But hey, I deal with everyone else's problems all day long. Who has time to deal with my own, right? So, no, I'm just kidding. Suzanne, he is acting guilty. Yes, referring to Miss Pieto's boyfriend. That certainly would not, you would think that he would say, oh no, last place I saw her was here. Let me tell you where I saw her. I dropped her off. No, she ran off. She was angry. I don't know where she went. She was hitchhiking last I saw her. Who knows? But just to lawyer up, that makes, it looks bad. Sue, Scott, tomorrow is a new day. That's correct. That is correct. Therapist. I always wonder what you're supposed to do when you talk to a therapist. He needs to go for a leisure sightseeing flight. You've never seen an airplane in front of a psychiatrist's office. Good point, Mama Pink. Good point. Yeah. You've never seen a plane parked in front of a therapist's office. That's deep. I like that. Where's Winnie? You know where Winnie is? Winnie's at home with the lovely Miss Kristen. Now behind the camera here, we have Frank, the hardest working man in show business. And then we have Julie. What's your handle there, Julie? I mean, you just kind of like, yeah, Julie, I need to send you to Salida. Okay. Julie, can you work on this project for me? Okay. She's rapidly approaching, the hardest working woman in show business, I guess. She just, sure. I mean, that should be her name. Julie, sure, I can do anything. Or Julie, I can do anything. But Winnie is at home with the lovely Miss Kristen. I thought the lovely Miss Kristen was going to be joining us this evening. And I really did. Really thought she was bringing, and she was going to bring Miss Winnie the Bulldog as well. And she didn't come. When she said she was coming, I wasn't as excited, and she thought that was an invitation. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, no, I want you to come. I invited you this morning. You should come down. Sorry, Kristen. I love you. Sorry. Anyway, we'll deal with that. Let's see here. I found murder women the same. I'm just looking at some of these questions here while we stroll down here. Julie, the most versatile person in show business. She is. I mean, I don't think she's ever said no to any of the requests. I need you to do this. Call this person. Can you do that? And she goes out and makes a lot of stuff happen, even without me asking. That's always good, right? Let's see. Have you ever had a client you found out to lie to you? How do you deal with that client? Journey of justice. Good question. A lot of people want to ask. Have you ever had a client who you found out lied to you? How do we handle this? Well, let's see. Oh my gosh, right? You would think Who would lie to their attorney? First of all, you'd want to be completely honest with your attorney. Tell them everything so that you could best zealously represent them and know what pitfalls to avoid because of the complete honesty that you have given them. Or you have clients that will tell you a story and you sit there and you say, okay, good. That's great. Well, let me get that discovery, all the police reports, body cam videos. Let me take a look at that, and then I'll give you an opinion. And then what the client tells you is not even close to what took place. Did the client lie? Okay, now I'm not saying all clients lie, but listen, when you have to go to your attorney, and people shouldn't feel this way, but I know I get it. It's like, going to the doctor. You don't want to tell them, things. It's private, right? You're embarrassed. But the only way the doctor can help you is if you tell them what's wrong. Well, it's kind of the only way the lawyer can help you sometimes too is they can only, help you, try to help you, solve the problem if they know what the problem is. And so you got to do that. But yes, lots of times clients, I don't know if they're necessarily lying, but let's say they hold back some of the information. They don't like to volunteer it. And that's natural. People are scared. When they have to go hire an attorney or an attorney gets appointed to their case, a lot of the time they're scared. They're scared to death. They've never been through this process before. They don't know this person on the other side of the room. Maybe they just, they found them online. A friend or a family member referred them to you. And you're here telling them, hey, wow, just tell me everything, man. I know you don't trust me. We just met, but just tell me everything. A lot of people don't do that. And like I said, not necessarily that they're lying. They just oftentimes don't tell everything. Trying to think, well, maybe if I don't tell him, maybe that fact doesn't exist. So then what happens? What do you do with it? You have to tell the client. We seem to have a difference of facts. This unbiased person who had nothing to do with the case clearly could see the incident take place and said, this happened. You, on the other hand, don't want to look like a bad person, maybe accused of a crime. And your facts seem to be a little bit jaded, maybe a little self-serving towards you. Let's take a look at this and let's see how a jury would react. Who do you think they're more than likely going to believe? Sometimes clients will persist in their choice of facts throughout, which will oftentimes get them convicted or a much worse penalty than if they had done it, than if they had just told you it and you could have dealt with it and you could have got them a much better disposition. So your legal fact for the day is the best legal advice you can get for the day. Just tell your attorney the truth. That's all you can do. So yes, journey of justice. I've had many clients lie to you. I've had clients say, yeah, remember everything I told you? It was not true. This is what really happened. Sometimes they tell you that during trial. I'm like, really? Wow. That's interesting. Don't you think that would have been something you probably should have told me? In fact, I think I probably look at my notes. I asked you that question, but now it just happens to come up. Jen B wants to know, can you fire a client? Love your CrimeTalk family. Love you, CrimeTalk family. You can fire a client. Sometimes there's just irreconcilable differences. It depends. Is there an ethical conflict? Maybe there's irreconcilable differences. You just don't get along. Sometimes people just, it's just not the right fit. And I remember back in my younger days, I would get, someone said, I want to get a different attorney. I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong? What's wrong with me? I'll do better. Right? And now it's like I think I need to get a different attorney because you're not telling me what I want to hear. Okay. Sounds good to me. Bye-bye. right? See ya, move along. Just not going to deal with that stuff anymore. It just doesn't, not that worried about that. Alexis Coleman, has a client ever scared or intimidated you? I've had clients try to. In most witness visitation rooms or, lower client visitation rooms, they have panic buttons. I've never had to hit the panic button. Now, I've had loud conversations with clients, but I don't think I've ever been intimidated to such a point. Now, I have had associates, particularly a very, very strong, great attorney, female attorney, but she was super freaked out by a client once. She's like, I'm not going to see this guy alone again. And I just wound up handling the case. And that particular client was a bad man. And I get it. But, yeah. Susan, Gabby's going to be another missing person unless the boyfriend talks to the attorneys. That is, probably true. I mean, where do they even begin? Right? Scott, your response answers the question better than you know. Has the client ever scared you? Laura, help me, Scott. I would tell my attorney 100% because it may be hard to own up to what you've done, but it can help. Scott, do you think Lori has finally smelled the coffee and having a real breakdown? Love the piece of art to your left. Please do flight videos as well.
Yeah,
We're working on them. Took a flight a couple weeks ago. We're working on it, downloading. This week, Frank's telling me, we're going to get it done. Flying video. You can go over to Plain Talk. How unique, right? The artwork. Oh, I bet you're referring to my Trojan horse there. That was my gift from the lovely Miss Kristen. Isn't that the coolest thing ever? Kind of sums up my philosophy in trial. They know you're coming, but they don't know where they're coming. You're going to get them, right? You have to, a little Trojan horse and a little Sun Tzu, the art of war. Sun Tzu, the art of war. Don't do what they think you're going to do. I don't know if Lori has finally smelled the coffee or maybe she's truly delusional. And when I mean delusional, it's the type of situation where someone is actually truly believes that they're, the end is coming and all of her children were, negative energy or whatever they called it. I can't remember. I mean, it seems like somebody's got a different name for it every other cult that begins. I don't know. I don't think she's having I think they're going to find out that she is just batshit crazy. I really do. Excuse my French, but I think that's what it's going to come back as, is that she's just delusional. She truly believes that there are these dark spirits, dark energies. She probably truly believes that what's his name is that Chad Daybell is, this leader leading everybody into the afterworld, so to speak. That's just my humble opinion. I've met some crazy people over the years, and crazy doesn't it's not what you think it is. Most people think of, they're crazy. There's some schizophrenic. It's the homeless guy, dirty, running around the streets with no shoes on. Okay, mental health issues for sure. But like delusional crazy, the people that I've met and known, you could have a conversation with them and then you think, well, that was a weird conversation because everything kept coming back to this one little topic area. But my experience, people that have like truly been crazy, like locked up, throw away the key kind of crazy, or, never going to get restored to competency. Everyday people just absolutely delusional as to what's going on in the world. So, Sherry, family law attorneys often have a panic button. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, who gets shot more than anybody, right? Of the attorneys in the world? Family law attorneys. And I have a good friend that does family law. I couldn't do it. I just don't have give me a good old fashioned murderer any day. Would like to know what type of plane you have, Dawn Marie. I have a little Piper Malibu. It's PA-46. What kind of plane you have come from a family of planes lovers. Yep. This is my third plane. And every time I think I'm going to step up to something with a turboprop on the front, something always happens. Okay, Scott made an arrest for Alex Murdaugh shooting. Why would Lori and Chad be back in court tomorrow? I believe tomorrow is the hearing. They're scheduling, I think, for Chad, is my recollection. And they were going to do a further status conference on Lori Vallow, but I don't believe it's going to be made available for the public. And then there'll probably be an order. So depending on the time of it, we'll try to cover it in our daily video if we, in fact, get it. All right. Wow. Can you believe? Wow. Can you believe already over an hour and 15 minutes already? God, it goes by so fast. I could do this. See, I'm telling you, people. Get us to 1 million subscribers, and we will be there all day long. Okay? Then I don't need to practice law on a daily basis. Wouldn't that be fun? Yes, it would. Yes, it would. So do that. We're going to be leaving you now. Thank you very much. If you haven't done so already, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And then also, if you'd like to join us in our next little conversation, it's going to be on our Patreon show. And when you become a Patreon member, you get a Patreon link. And only you, as a Patreon member, can participate. And the cool thing is that's right, you get to call in. We can have a conversation. You can talk to me about your theories, what you think it is in a particular case, and we'll see. Maybe we'll agree. Maybe we'll banter around a little bit. Maybe I'll get some good directions on, where to go to restaurants when I come flying to town. Like we had the young lad who was helping us one day. He was from Rexburg, Idaho, and he told us where to fly into. Much better airport. The Rexburg Airport, right downtown. Not a very long runway. No tower. Kind of sketch. I'd prefer the big long one at Idaho Falls. So that was good to know. And, we have people that call in on the streets all the time. We want to know what's going on. So join the Patreon. So thanks for watching. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk. And we'll see our Patreon members momentarily.